So let's talk first shift, second shift, and then the third shift and what they are and which one you should consider. Hey everyone, this is Thomas from nursemoneytalk.com. And if you have never been on this channel before, just want to say hello. My name's Thomas, as I've already said before, and I am a registered nurse. And with being a registered nurse, I'm sure you can imagine that I have worked all sorts of crazy shifts. So I've worked, I don't even know, first shift, second shift, third shift. I've done 7A to 7P, 7P to 7A, night shift, day shift. I've done coming in just for a couple hours all the way up to 16-hour shifts. So I've done all manner of shifts. And so let's talk about specifically what first, second, and third shifts are. So first shift is typically looking at morning. So this could be 7A to 3P. Second shift would be 3P to 11P. So that's 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then third shift would be 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then you would repeat all over again. Now, I will mention that depending on what facility you're working at, the hours could change a little bit. So for example, they could, it could be, it could be 7 to 3:30 and then, or like 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. It could be maybe they shifted back a little bit. Maybe it's 6 a.m. That is when their first shift starts, or maybe they move it up and it actually starts at 8. So there is a little bit of wiggle room where you might see something a little different. But in a nutshell, that's what you're looking at. Now, as for which one is better, to be quite honest with you, and this is probably gonna be like the no answer response, is that it really depends. And the reason why I say that before you tune out and be like, oh, he didn't give me the answer that I want, is because what's perfect for me might not necessarily be perfect for you. So for example, I hate night shift. I've done all manner of night shifts, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 7P to 7 a.m., whatever. I've done pretty much a lot of the variations of the night shift, and I hate it. But there are nurses who love it. They've been working it the entire career. They've been working for 15, 20 years and couldn't imagine doing anything else. So let's talk a little bit about kind of like what the differences might be or why you might prefer one over the other. So when you're looking at the first shift, so this would be roughly 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's during the morning time. So you don't have to deal with nights or any off schedule. A lot of people already run those quote unquote bank hours. So, when you're getting off, a lot of people, probably will also be off as well. You're always home in the evening time as well with kids. If you have kids that are in school, you'll be running a fairly similar schedule that, just like them. The downside, of course, with that is that if you're not a morning person, then you're waking up pretty stinking early. And then also the other negative with that is that because you're working quote unquote banking hours or the hours that a lot of people work, it means that you kind of have to do a little bit of finagling to be able to get doctor's appointments, maybe go to a mechanic, just because depending on the hours you're working, by the time you're getting off work, those places would be close to closing. Or even if it is a place that's open, then you're running over there at the exact same time as other people are. So that's something to keep in mind. So the next one is like the second shift. So this one will be looking at roughly 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. If you have small kids, depending on, especially if you have like a spouse or whatever the case is, then you could potentially be in a scenario where you don't have to deal with daycare. And we know daycare is pretty expensive as well. If there's any school functions like school assemblies, like, maybe field trips or whatever, which of course is going to happen during school hours, you don't have to worry about taking off because you already will be off. Your hours won't be really that messed up as like if you're working a night shift as well. So you'll be on regular sleeping schedule. Now, the downside with the second shift is that you probably won't be home for dinners or evenings. If you have like small kids, you won't be really putting them to bed either. The other issue that I have with the second shift as well is that if you are a morning person, which is one of the issues I have with the second shift, is that it feels off. So I like to get up, like even on the days that I'm off, I'm up probably around like 6 a.m. or something like that. So I'm up pretty early most times of the day anyway. And so when I would be trying to wind down, like I'm still running when I'm working like the second shift. So that's kind of like probably one of the issues I've had with that as well. Some people, I've met plenty of nurses though who they've worked, there was one thing particular I'm thinking of, probably worked the second shift for probably well over a decade, and she loves it. And so it fits her lifestyle, it fits the schedule that she wants. And the next one as well is looking at the third shift. And so pros to this. So once again, third shift, you would be looking at 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. or some variation of that. The pros to this is that night shift nurses generally that shift tends to be paid more, all else being equal, than all the other ones. So like if you are working, if you are like, for example, as a nurse, like we have like shift differentials. And so night shift differential tends to be higher than like getting like an evening shift differential, which is what second shift would get. And then first shift, which is a 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. generally doesn't get any shift differential. If you're a night owl, then you'll probably love this as well. Like there's just some people who like, they would rather work at night and sleep during the day. Less traffic, less parking issues, depending on where you're working at. The night shift is kind of a weird deal where like, depending on how you want to train yourself to sleep during the day, you can either be, take your kids to school, or, be able to pick them up. So it just really depends on whether or not you want to sleep during the morning or if you want to sleep during the evening as well. So I've seen a lot of nurses kind of be able to play with the schedule as well to really make that benefit their home lifestyle or whatever they have going on at home. One thing that I've noticed, and this might be more specific to nurses, is that there seems to be like a lot more camaraderie between night shift and all the other day evening shifts, as far as I've seen when I've worked. And I don't know why that is, but that's just been my experience with that. The other nice thing about the night shift as well is that you tend to have minimal contact with management, administrators, if you work in a healthcare facility with accreditors. And so there's been people who I know who they work night, that's been one of their main reason is less people around, they can just do their work. It's also kind of like one of that particular, less administration, less people is also one of the selling points why so many people I know actually choose to work the weekend, surprisingly. The major downside with the third shift is that it's a hard sleeping schedule to get used to. There's a lot of potential negative health outcomes with working night shift. It can be potentially very detrimental to your social life as well. Especially if you're looking at family relationships, because if you think about it, you're working opposite schedules of pretty much vast majority of people, and then it can be very difficult to actually then adjust to just the overall pattern. Or the situation you'll probably run into is like if you're working so that's all fine, like during your work hours or days that you're working, but what happens when you're not working? Are you going to stay on that night shift schedule? Are you going to try to switch back? And then what do you do if they, if your facility does like weird scheduling where like you could be, you might have only 1 or 2 days in between? Is it really worth switching back over? Because from my experience, you pretty much lose like a day trying to switch and then switch back. You could honestly lose upwards of 2 days trying to switch to days and then trying to then switch back into nights if you're trying to switch back and forth during your days off. So those are kind of like just some things to keep in mind as you kind of navigate on which shift you should go for. Because it really is very dependent on your personal situation, your preference, your personal situation, and just kind of like overall, what are you wanting to do and what are you wanting to get out of the job as well. So let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions at all, just about like maybe first, second, third shifts or anything. If you have any more specific questions that I might not have covered. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you found this video helpful, because that really does help us in terms of making sure that the YouTube algorithm gets this video out to more people who are gonna find this helpful. I'll put up another video that will show up that you'll see showing up here shortly as well. Just kind of like just some other videos that might help you in with making this decision or any other career related decision you might have. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you very soon in that next one.